You know what? Let's go. I meant to do the Barbary pirates. So let's go down this thread. Once again, take everything I present to you guys with a huge grain of salt. So, for over 300 years, Barbary pirates enslaved 1 million Europeans and Americans. They raided ships, burned villages, and sold captives into brutal servitude until 8 U.S. Marines took on a pirate empire and ended the white slave trade forever. Okay, so let's see here.
Facts about slavery that they didn't teach you in school. For many centuries, it was white Christian Europeans who were slaves in Africa. For almost 300 years, the southern coast of Europe was incredibly vulnerable to the Islamic Barbary states and their slave raiding. Both coastal communities and Christian ships were often targeted. One such slave raider, Turgut Reis, was considered one of the greatest Turkish admirals of his day. In 1551, he raided the Maltese island of Gozo. In this instance, 5,000 people, the entire population, were enslaved. In 1554, he then attacked Vieste in Italy. The men were massacred, but 7,000 women and children were taken off to be slaves. As far north as Ireland was attacked, in 1631, the town of Baltimore was attacked by the Barbary pirates and the population taken to be slaves in Algiers. Like and follow for part 3.
Okay.
Facts about
Putting in work. All right, these pirates hailing from Morocco, Algeria, Tunisia, and Libya plundered cargo and enslaved crews. Coastal towns from Ireland to Iceland weren't safe either. Thomas Sowell. There you go, Nick.
Of whites, for example, who were enslaved in North Africa by the Barbary pirates exceeded the number of Africans enslaved in the United States and in the American colonies before that, put together. I know, but nobody is going to North Africa to ask for reparations because nobody is going to be fool enough to give it to them.
Okay.
Here we have intellectuals who can imagine a different history from the rest of the world, even though it's so similar to the rest of the world.
Now I see why black folk don't like Thomas Sowell. I get it. The Corsairs raided villages, kidnapping women, children, and the elderly to sell in bustling slave markets in Algiers and Tripoli. 1631 Corsairs abducted nearly the entire population of Baltimore, Ireland. Yeah, so the Tripoli in the Marines March song. Yeah, it makes sense now. Okay, let's continue. White captives were forced into grueling labor, sold as concubines, or converted into soldiers within the Ottoman military. The Barbary states demanded tribute from nations to spare their ships. By the late 18th century, even the newly independent United States were paying these ransoms. Now, wait. Before I play this, is it kind of making sense why Europeans go so hard on urban folk? Is it kind of making sense why they just go so hard on urban folk? Are you seeing the 5 W's, the who, what, where, whys, and hows? Let's go.
Immediately after the Revolutionary War, the U.S. lost the protection of the naval forces of Britain and France in the Mediterranean. And the Barbary pirates were the naval forces of the satellite states of the Ottoman Empire, who essentially demanded tribute or would seize commercial vessels and hold as prisoners and hostages their crews, and sometimes even put them into slavery. Jefferson heard about the seizures of American commerce, and he realized that something had to be done, but he was against paying tribute or ransom. So when the issue came up in Jefferson's time, Jefferson did explicitly authorize the naval forces that Congress had provided him to defend American commerce. And if they saw a Tripolitan Barbary pirate ship coming out to attack a U.S. commercial vessel, they were given instructions to go ahead and
take it down,
prevent that attack,
yeah,
and to attack those vessels. He did not inform Congress of those specific instructions. It's important to emphasize that Jefferson did nothing wrong. When Congress provided him with these very impressive ships, Their purpose was to defend American commerce in the Mediterranean. That's why they were built. That's why Congress paid for them. The notion that there had to be a declaration of war before any kind of military action went on between the United States and some other foreign country, that was not anything that occurred to any of the major framers of the Constitution at the time. They regarded the use of these vessels as purely defensive. They were going to be going out into the Mediterranean and protecting American commerce. And the Tripolitan or Tunisian.
It's always all about commerce. Even before the Fed Reserve and all the banks of the U.S., commerce. You will not disrupt commerce.
Or Algerian ships that would come out and attack our commerce had already proved to be aggressive and offensively attacking. The issue of a declaration of war never came up. No one suggested that these actions were illegal because of lack of declaration of war. The important precedent that an objective person would derive from these is that, first of all, that Congress can authorize the use of military force without a declaration of war, just by providing the president with frigates to defend American commerce. This is the way our Constitution works, with power over the same issue distributed to different branches. So it's very important that people realize that you can't simply resolve these kind of disputes in our constitutional system by saying, oh, the president has this power, commander-in-chief. Oh, the Congress has that power to declare war. That doesn't work. That's not what the framers intended. The framers intended to give powers to both branches, and indeed to the Supreme Court as well, to be able to affect the very same issues. So there would be conflict between the branches based on real power. So the Barbary pirates then are a very important part of our constitutional history, and they show that Congress can give the president powers to use force, largely in that case in self-defense, in a continuing dispute with foreign powers.
Okay, interesting. Okay, let's continue. The U.S.
And even into the Thames estuary. A 17th century British parliamentary report said, "The fishermen are afraid to put to sea, and we are forced to keep continual watch on all our coasts." Nevertheless, Algerians were estimated to have captured more than 350 British ships between 1672 and 1682, which would mean that they enslaved a few hundred Britons annually. Earlier, in 1627, these pirates ranged even farther afield and raided Iceland, carrying off nearly 400 people into bondage. As late as the early 19th century, Barbary pirates captured American ships in the high seas and enslaved their crews. The phrase, "to the shores of Tripoli," is in the U.S. Marine Corps hymn because Marines were part of a naval expedition sent to rescue hundreds of Americans from bondage in North Africa and serve as a warning against further pirate attacks on American ships.
Okay. Fascinating. So in 1805, a daring plan emerged to strike the heart of the Barbary states. William Eaton, former U.S. consul, and Lieutenant Presley O'Bannon, along with just 8 U.S. Marines and 500 mercenaries, marched 600 miles across the Libyan desert to capture the coastal city of Derma. April 27, 1805, Eaton and O'Bannon launched their assault. The Marines and mercenaries, despite being outnumbered 4-1, stormed the city under heavy fire. O'Bannon personally led the charge, inspiring his men to secure the fort and raise the first American flag on foreign soil. The battle freed American hostages and crushed the Barbary pirates' operations. This victory forced Yusuf Karamanli to negotiate peace. The treaty signed aboard the U.S. Constitution guaranteed free passage for American ships in the Mediterranean, an end to tribute payments, the cessation of active white slavery in the Barbary states. This marked a turning point in the fight against piracy as European powers also began bolstering their navies and rejecting tribute demands. Lieutenant O'Bannon's bravery earned him a ceremonial Mameluke sword, now a symbol of the Marine Corps tradition. Wow. They was doing too much, man. Too much foot to ass. They was doing too much. Holy cow. That was a nice little history. I like learning stuff. Okay.